Hello, Frank. Hello,
How are you?
everyone. So far, so good. So far, so good. I'm back from a long road trip to several conferences and technical events that I had in April. But now I'm happy to be back home and finally have our next community open hours live stream together with you because I had to miss the previous one.
Yeah. It's conference season.
Conferences. Yeah, that's true. So, and hello everyone who is watching us live today. The topic is going to be interesting, especially if you're a developer, because if you judging by the title, you know that Postgres, one of the Postgres superpowers is what, Frank? What's the superpower of Postgres?
Extensibility.
Yes.
Because you
And
have a lot of features, but you can add more features, and the community can add more features. Yeah.
exactly. And if you want to hack on something, and if you sort of one of those developers who want to hack things, you can create an extension. It might be some joke like something silly, but still you can go ahead and take a look at the Postgres internals, learn its source code, and try to integrate something useful or just funny for the database. As a result, these days we have, I guess, hundreds and hundreds of extensions that you created for Postgres. Not every extension is very known, but I think that among those extensions, at least 200 plus extensions are very well known and used widely by developers, DBAs, DevOps, and other types of technical folks. Today, we wanted to take a look at least top 5 extensions for application developers. And those top 5 extensions is our judgment, right? You might have, if you are a developer, then you might have your own top 5 extensions, but this is what we decided to pick for the today's live stream. And folks, now we will also spend 5 minutes with Frank just to give you the latest updates on some of the latest updates from the world of Yuga, DB, and Postgres, some of the latest news. But while we are doing that, certainly engage with us and tell us what are those 5 extensions should be. Like, try to pick what extension we are going to cover today, write it down in the comment, and then we'll know like whether you were right or not. So like share what those 5 extensions for developers might be, or at least one or two, whatever is on your mind.
So in the chat in YouTube or LinkedIn, and yeah, and you said for developers because I know for DBAs there are common extensions that DBA install, like pgstat statement, of course, and those for operations. But here we are talking about developer extending what you can do in the database for developers.
This is a good point. Yeah, don't share like something like pgstat statements or anything that you would use, or pgdump is a tool. It's not an extension, but something that you would use. Like think about extensions that you would use during development cycles that you need at least for the development. That would simplify the architecture of your application or logic of your application. Think about those extensions, my friends, and write them down. Share with us in the comments. In the meantime, what's about the news, Frank? This is Yuga DB community open hours, but Yuga DB belongs to the Postgres community. And I know that you went to one of the Postgres conferences in Europe. Share your...
Yeah, yesterday I was in Belgium, in the PG Day in Belgium. Actually, it's a season where there are many PG days, and also this year we are sponsoring many events in Europe. So in addition to having a talk there, we had a booth and we sponsor just to support the community and Postgres. So that was Belgium, and in June will be PG Day in France, PG Day in Switzerland. So yeah, we will be there in all.
Excellent. So folks, if any of you lives in Europe, and I know that logistic in Europe is incredible, you can just quickly jump on a train, right, and get whenever you like. Then check for the nearest PG days in your area. Then
I can recommend the PG Day in Switzerland end of June because it's the most beautiful place just near the lake, near Zurich. And yeah, of course, go there for Postgres, but if it's a nice place, it's even better.
Yeah, and also I think in a couple of months or when there should be PG Day in Ibiza.
Yeah,
Ibiza.
yeah.
Yeah. Yep. I met with Alvaro for the first time at PostgresConf in Silicon Valley, and he encouraged everyone to come to that place. Certainly, that's a wonderful place to visit and to spend time in. But also, he's trying to arrange one of the most incredible folks from the Postgres community to come and to speak there. I know that you've been to that conference last year, right, Frank?
Yeah. And it's a bit different. It's more open to all the ecosystem around Postgres. The PG days are very focused on Postgres, not the managed service from other companies that are not open source.
Mm-hmm.
In Ibiza, they are really open to the user community, and the users may use Postgres or may use something around Postgres. So yeah, that's also interesting to meet different people.
So, folks, write this down. Don't forget about this if you live in Europe. Check the map or send a note to us, and you will find like when is the next PG day coming, and make sure to come. It will be usually those events are quite like it's a community size event, meaning that it's not that super large conference where you can get lost, right? And you just come for those conferences just to primarily learn the content from the speakers. Postgres days and Postgres conferences, the cool thing about them is that you can engage with those people, because it's not that huge stuff where it's hard just to talk to someone, but like you can talk to anyone. You can talk to Frank, you can talk to those who build Postgres, you can talk to those who created some advanced applications on Postgres. It's
That's a
very
good point.
welcome.
It's if it's the first time you go to a conference, do not be shy. At least we are there, and just reach out. Start to talk to a few people, and then you will know everybody. It's very open minded.
Hmm. Yeah, if you
And
live in
not only Postgres, also next week there is the JCon in Cologne in Germany. I will present Hibernate, and yeah, around Java developers, everybody's using a database, and a lot are using Postgres also. So yeah.
Java, like Postgres is getting very good traction within the Java community.
Yeah.
So that's that what I see, because I stay in touch with the Java community closely. Okay, if you live in North America, then we already had two Postgres conferences in April. We had one in Silicon Valley and Chicago. Don't miss them next time. If you were there, just let us know. It would be nice to check, like if I had a chance to talk to you there. And the next conference, the next Postgres conference that is coming in the United States, if I'm not mistaken, is going to be something is going to be happening in Vancouver, that's in Canada. And another one is in New York City. This one should be in September or October, I don't remember. But also keep this in mind. And if you live in Latin America, good news for you. If you live in Mexico, and especially in Mexico City, let me share my screen. Right. In Mexico City, yeah, I don't know Spanish, but yeah, I think this is on May 23rd. This May, in a couple of weeks, we will have a Postgres SQL conference. Come, join, especially if you live in Mexico City or if it's in a reasonable, distance from your location. Okay. Nice. And now going back to the main topic,
Extensions.
the extensions. What's you actually thinking on extensions, Frank? Before we dive into the list, why
There are
why
many
the
extensions. Doesn't mean that you have to install and use all of them. If you choose an extension, I think there are two good criteria to choose an extension. First, you need what they do, and second, you see that it's an active project. If you see an extension on GitHub that had no update for the last 5 years, then either you will have to contribute to it to use it, or maybe it's not a good idea to use it.
Exactly. Now let's start with our top 5 list, and the number 5, and actually this rank It doesn't mean like which one is, the most important one, the most valuable. No, our rank is as follows. We will start with the most obvious extensions that everyone is talking about or using these days, and then we will go down to the least probably known or least obvious extensions. And the first most obvious extension, my friend, I think it's not a surprise, it's Postgres pgvector. So Postgres pgvector turns Postgres into a vector database. It adds special vector data type operators and data access patterns and indexes so that you can build your GenAI applications by running the vector similarity search operations over your data in Postgres. I don't know, like what's happening here. Like I see this thumb up. What's
Sorry.
happening on my screen? I see this some reaction whenever I'm talking. The thumb up. You see it? No? You see it?
I've seen that in Zoom where there are some gestures.
Oh, I turned this off. I think this
And
is
it
something that
seems
is.
that you done something on StreamYard.
No,
I
it's
don't
not
have the link.
StreamYard. I found it. This is part of the macOS. It's part of the iPhone.
Okay.
Yeah, I just disabled it because it was a little bit confusing. So with pgvector, let's start with the pgvector. And today we want to show you every extension in action. We want to show you how it works. I will start with the pgvector. Let's share the screen.
So the most popular, and I think in the past year I've not seen any PG event without at least one or two talks about pgvector.
Yep, exactly. So this is the tutorial, folks, and if anyone wants to try it out, I will share with you everything. What I'm going to do today, I will be creating a simple Node.js application. This is a JavaScript app. What this application does, I'm going to connect to Postgres. This is the driver for Node.js. It's already imported. And once I'm connected to Postgres, my first query is going to be provide me with a list of all of the extensions. What Postgres instance, I use Tambo instance of Postgres today for one reason. There are many extensions of Postgres, and right now we have several registers, right, repositories of extensions that aim to simplify the installation and configuration of the extensions. But still, it's not as streamlined as with Maven in Java or Gradle in Java or NPM and Node.js, which means that if, let's say, you want to get just one extension for your experiments, then it's easy to do, right? You just probably can find a Docker image with that extension and get it running. But when you want to have multiple extensions pre-installed, then it might be a little bit more complicated if you want to create your own instance of Postgres with all of the extensions. So that's why today I just want to show you how it works, and I used a free instance of Tamba. What Tamba folks did, they supported a bunch of extensions, like that's the list, probably over 200 extensions, and you can enable those extensions by just toggle button click. So I have several extensions enabled and I want to use them. So that's the main point for using Tamba today. But Tamba is just open source Postgres, no any changes. Now, let me connect to my database and show you the schema, because we are using the Postgres pgvector, and I preloaded some sample data set. Where I go here. I want to find the connection string. Yeah, that's the connection string. We are using PSQL, and I know that my developer certificate is located in here. Users, dmagda, downloads. Okay. Let's take a look. I have this movie table, and probably you have already seen it in the past. This movie table has several movies, like several thousands, a couple of thousands movies. Every movie has a title, overview, and overview vector. And that overview vector was generated using an OpenAI embedding model over the data that is stored in the overview column. So right now, let me just show you how it looks, and we will pick one random movie. Yeah, it doesn't look good. We need to do this extended display. And this is an embedding. an array of floating point numbers, and that array of floating point numbers was generated for the following movie description, and this is the title of the movie. I used an OpenAI embedding model, and then let me just create a sample application that uses PageVector to find the most relevant movies for a user prompt. If you take a look at the movie, right, we already use PageVector because this overview vector column is of the vector type. And this vector type is part of the PageVector extension. Another capability of the PageVector is that you can run the vector similarity search over the following data, over the embeddings of your movies. Let's go here because I don't want to, implement everything from scratch today. But what we will do instead, we need to import. But first, let's run this application because I'm not sure if this application works or not. Let's do node index.js. Yes, we successfully connected to my instance, and I returned what I returned: currently installed extensions. You can see that some of those extensions we are going to discuss later. Now, updating my application, what I want to do, I want to perform the vector similarity search over those movies. I want to import first the OpenAI library into my application. Then I have this implementation for the recommend movies method. We will discuss it in a minute. And what I also need to do, I need to create this OpenAI client. Yes, you do it this way, but Copilot is a little bit wrong. We need to pass API key this way. And yes, my API key, at least it remembered my API key is stored where? I think it's stored. Let's create Postgres. Let's go to downloads, and here we will see, that's the name of my file where I store my OpenAI developer key. Cool. It's initialized. So we will be connecting to the OpenAI APIs, and we will be generating embeddings for what? For the user prompt. So this is the method implementation. I will be providing some user prompt. For instance, I want to watch some horror movie or something that is similar to Star Wars. And then we will take this provided text prompt. We will make a call to our OpenAI embedding model. And then we will use the following model of OpenAI to generate an embedding for the prompt. And the same model was used to generate those overview vectors for your movies. So this is what you need to follow. Once we get this embedding, we are going to use the Postgres PageVector for the vector similarity search over their movies database. How it works? I will be returning a movie title overview from the movie table, and then I want to get only those movies which are 70% close to the provided user prompt. So this operation is the cosine distance between my movie overview and their user embedding. The closer the distance, the more relevant the movie is for the user prompt. And then I'm taking this distance and I'm converting it to the similarity. And you get the similarity by subtracting this distance from 1. And then the similarity is the value in the range from 0 to 1. So the closer to 1, the more relevant your movies will be for the provided user prompt. Okay. So this is how we select the most relevant movies using the PageVector, cosine distance. And then we also order by the same similarity. We want the most similar to go first in our output, and we want to get at least 3 movies. We don't want to get more. And this is how I pass this user prompt, user embedding that was generated using OpenAI. And then I'm printing out the result. So makes sense, right? The implementation is very straightforward, and I hope that it's not going to work right now because I'm not calling this method. So what do we want to watch? Let's do this. I no longer need this request. I want to do recommend movies. Yes, we need to pass the Postgres driver, OpenAI instance, and a movie about detective. Now, you remember that what did we have during the last weekend? We had May the 4th. May the 4th be with you. How about we do this long, long time ago in a galaxy far, far away? I want to see something that will be close to this sentence. Let's see if pgvector will figure out what I am looking for. It's not queryable. Yeah, because I need to, it's an asynchronous operation. I need to do this await. Okay, and take a look. Yeah, it's cool. So first one, Star Wars Episode 2, probably not the best one, but then we have The Empire Strikes Back, the classics, and Star Wars The Force Awakens. Okay, that's good. So generally, this is how it works. And this is, my friends, the most obvious extension of Postgres for application developers, because right now we live in the time of the Gen AI hype cycle. And what you need to remember is that if you want to use Postgres as a vector database for Gen AI apps, chatbots, autonomous agents, or whatever is on your mind, it's easy to do, right? Just load your data, then generate, pick some of the columns that are relevant for those embedded generations. In the case of my movie database, that was the movie overview column, and then perform the vector similarity search. It's very straightforward. Anything else you'd like to add, Frank? And do we have any questions or no?
I don't see any question, and yeah, nothing else to add. I really like that we can do it in the database because we have a lot of data in the database. We have exact search, we have indexes, we have all type of data types, but we don't want to move out of the database just to do some fuzzy search on text and description. So it's good to have it within the database because it's very useful, but you don't need just that. You also need the relational data with it.
Yeah, my personal view and position on this. I don't want to dismay or just put down pure vector databases, because my thinking is that the vector databases, they will not disappear, they will continue to exist, but that will remain as a niche technology, because there will be some of the use cases where you need to have a very optimized, purposely
Yeah.
built vector database. However, also my thinking is that for general purpose AI use cases, let it be Gen AI or some other ML related workloads, it will be okay to use like Postgres or another, standard database, because Postgres and many other databases, that they already support essential foundational capabilities.
And finally, everything comes to the relational database. When I started in databases, there were those object databases, and finally they were never used. But objects came to Postgres, to Oracle, and then there were those XML databases, and finally we had the XML data type in those relational databases, and same with JSON, and same with vectors now.
That's true. This is a very good point. There is a paper by Mike Stonebreaker and Andy Pavlov where they talk about this. What comes around,
Yeah.
what goes around comes around, and this is basically the story of what Andy Pavlov usually says, is that SQL was here before you were born, and it will be here after you die. And this is a very relevant point, because once there is any technology that shows its usefulness, such as JSON, right, then a forward-thinking relational database would support it.
Mm.
And same we see right now happening with the graph APIs. Again, I'm not telling that pure graph databases will disappear, they will stay, and because they are very well optimized for graph use cases, but still, many of those graph use cases are going to be supported out of the box by Oracle, Postgres, and other databases that use graph APIs. Okay, friends, if you have any questions, feel free to share. By the way, Frank, do you see anything on LinkedIn? Because I know that I have some hiccups with LinkedIn.
I don't. I refresh several times because I know we have to refresh, but looks like we have no comments. If someone can just say "I" on LinkedIn so that we validate that we see the comments.
Yeah. Okay. Now, in the meantime, let's go to the second most obvious extension. You want to talk about that extension, Frank? What?
Languages, stored procedures.
Yeah, you remember.
That's also something I've seen a lot of people saying, "Oh, do not put the logic in the database." And of course, you don't want to build all your application logic in the database. But at some point, you need some procedural logic in the database. And if you can use any language that you like, it's even better. If you don't have to learn a new language just for those few procedures, then it can be useful. And Postgres extensibility allows that.
And what's important, yeah, as you said, you you can write in your language, because if you are working with one of those major languages, then it's highly likely that there is some extension in Postgres that already lets you create those database functions or store procedures in your kind of in your own mother tongue, in your own language.
Yeah,
Let me
and it's not only about the language. Maybe you just also want to reuse a library. For example, if you have a function in JavaScript that checks some input, that a format of a phone number of whatever, you don't want to code the same logic into languages, but you may want to use the logic in the UI just to give an error message quickly to the user, but also in the database to enforce integrity. And then you just want to use the same code, not code it differently, the same logic.
exactly. So now let's show how to use how to write stored procedures in one of the major languages, and then, if needed, you as a developer can tap into this for your own apps. Sharing the screen one more time.
Which language did you choose?
Come on, like, where have you been? Like, this is JavaScript, Node.js. This is JavaScript. So which means that today I will be using an extension for JS. But as I said, if you go to the extensions repository, and I think they have a category of the procedural languages. Take a look here, and this is, I think, not even a complete list. Yeah, you have an extension for Perl. You have certainly for Python. Also, you have for Java, but this one is not available on Tambo yet. I will be using today PLV8. This is a procedural language extension for those who want to write stored procedures in JavaScript. It's already enabled for my deployment, for my instance. Let me do this. I want to show you how your function can look like. Where is my, yeah, this one. If I do it a little bit bigger. So what you do, you always, like, when you create logic in JavaScript, Java or Python, you still need to follow some ceremony, and that ceremony is you need to kind of create or replace your function, and then you can say that, all right, what your function returns. What happens here? I'm creating the function that is going to be like, who is that? The name of the function is who is that, and the function is going to return JSON data type. And what you have in the body of this function is JavaScript. It's just standard JavaScript. And also, as long as the name of this extension PLV8, if you want from your function to access data, which should be the case, then you can use this PLV8 extension to execute SQL requests from your stored procedure. And so what this function does, first, I want to know this function is going to be executed on my Postgres instance. The function will check the version of Postgres that runs on Tambo for me. And then also I will, create some message object, and then I will return back to my application or to my SQL tool the following JSON, like the message and the version. So the message is hello, that's me, Postgres. How you do this? If let's say if you use this extension directly, right, you need to connect to your database using your favorite command line tool. I'm connected, or you can do this from your application if you like. And then you need to create this function, like I'm using PSQL. So the function is created, and then you execute it this way. Who is that? So it works. So that's the message, Postgres, and this is the version of Postgres, like 15th, and runs, I think, yeah, on Ubuntu. And then certainly what you can do, you can go back to your application logic. We no longer need this GNI stuff. Let's remove it. What we can do is we can run the following request. I'm using my Node.js driver. I'm running the query method, and I'm telling, yeah, please make a call to the following function. Once you get this result, you decide what you want to do with it in your application. I will be just printing whatever was returned by this function, restarting my application, and look at this. Yeah, I just used the driver. I made a call to this function that we previously created, deployed to the database, and the logic of that function was implemented in JavaScript. Another cool thing, if you're a JavaScript developer, there is a library that is called pgcompute, and that pgcompute library works hand to hand with the PLV8. So with pgcompute, you can create your Java functions as part of your application logic in your favorite IDEs such as Visual Studio Code, and then pgcompute extension will take this function, send it to Postgres automatically, deploy it there, and execute it for you. So let me show you how it works. It's very powerful, and I want JavaScript developer to keep this library in mind. So it's pgcompute. Let me import it, pgcompute. I think what I need to do next is, yeah, I no longer need OpenAI, but we need a pgcompute. Let's do just compute. I am initializing this pgcompute object. Now you don't need to pass the client. You need to have an instance of the database connection. Yeah, then you initialize this compute using the a driver connection, and it basically will be creating a special metadata. After that, your pgcompute is ready. And what we want to do next, let's say that I want to create some function, JavaScript function that I want to execute on the database end. Let's name this function. I just do it. Okay. And then what I do, I go to, so what I want to do? This function, again, it's going to be executed on the database, and it will be using the PLV8 extension. So which means that we can get the version of Postgres. We can use PLV8 execute method. Yes, select version, but I just want to get just the version. So I get the version, and also I can create a message object as an example. Let's say hello from PLVL Postgres. That's me. Okay. And finally, I am returning everything back to my application from the database. Also, I need to return JSON version. So this is the logic, right? And I implemented it in the application, but I want it to be executed on the database automatically. How I do this? I have this compute, and all I need to do is, let's do compute, run. I need to pass, I think, the client and the name of the function that I want to execute on the database. It's also asynchronous, which means that we need to wait while the execution completes. And then we do this constant, let's get the result. And I will just print this result. Okay, so this is a simple implementation. Let's run it. Take a look. It was executed. If you go to the database right now, let's connect to Postgres. We can use described function methods to find just do it. It's here. It was automatically created. How it works, you see this now. I have this pgcompute meta table. This is an internal table that is used by pgcompute. And if you take a look at the structure of pgcompute, then you will see this function. The function was created. This is the body. This is the hash code of the body. Why do you need this? Because if you change your logic implementation on your application end, then the pgcompute will detect this and it will recreate this function for you on Postgres automatically. So let's see how it works. How about this message? I no longer want to have this message as an example, right? I just want to return the version of Postgres. I'm changing this in my application. I'm restarting. I got this version. And if I execute pgcompute, now you can see that the hash code was changed, which means that it was redeployed. Cool. And certainly then you can pass different parameters from your Java, from your application, and those parameters also will be passed to Postgres, etc. So this is how it works. So keep this in mind. This is the second most obvious extension for you as a developer. If you want to create stored procedures, if you need to create stored procedures, there is nothing bad about creating stored procedures. As Frank said, it's all about the balance. Then you can use PLV8 for JavaScript or any other extension for your programming language. And also, if you're on JavaScript developer, then you can also benefit from the client-side library called PG Compute that works hand-to-hand with PLV8. All right. Anything else to add here? That was a quick intro.
No, perfect.
Perfect.
Just
How
checking
do you
the
like it?
comments. Jonas says I'm here, so we know that they are there. Yeah, I like it. I can add something. You have listed a lot of extensions with a lot of languages. Let me share my screen quickly and show you a language that you do not have. Do you know LOL code?
No, what's that?
That's a funny language that was created with the LOL language. This is the kind of language. Please open file. Awesome, thanks. That's a language someone has created. And guess what? Someone has created an extension in Postgres to build a program in LOL code.
Yeah,
I don't know if it still compiles very well because that's 11 years ago. Of course, it's for fun, so it's not used a lot. But just mentioning that you can create your own language if you want.
exactly. And this is actually, and also, and another example of if you want to hack Postgres, just you want to hack Postgres, but you don't want to hack the core database engine. You want to hack something around. You want to look, and this is just create something. You can create something silly. You can create something useful. You can create something that is interesting just for you, or for just smaller or bigger community. Do this. So the third extension, the third most obvious or already least obvious extension for application developers. Over to you, Frank.
Yeah, and let me share my screen. Foreign data wrapper is part of the extensibility of Postgres. Means that in addition to adding different code in the database, you can also interact with other databases. And here I will just show that we can query one database from another. And I will use the Postgres foreign data wrapper with two databases that are not Postgres. From Yugabyte to Redshift, but they are based on Postgres. Yugabyte is Postgres compatible and Redshift was built from Postgres. So let's try it. I've just started, not really started because it's serverless, an Amazon Redshift database where I have a sample database there. TPCH, where we have some queries. So that's the UI from AWS. But let's say that you are in Yugabyte, that is mostly optimized for OLTP, but you want to query something that you don't put on Yugabyte, that you put on Redshift because it's really analytic BI. You want a column store, you want some parallelism. So why not? But you want to query it from Yugabyte. And this is what I will show. So first, I tested here that I can connect with Postgres, with PSQL to Redshift. And there are a few things that doesn't work because it's not 100% compatible, but at least you can see the list of the tables that are there. And now I'm connected to Yugabyte and I will just query my Redshift database from here. So I create the extension foreign data wrapper for Postgres. The foreign data wrapper is a framework where you can query other tables or file in other databases, and it is integrated with the query planner. So you can query it and join it with local tables. So I just create the extension that interacts with Postgres. Yeah.
Question for you. Why do we use Postgres foreign data wrapper for Redshift? Because Redshift is Postgres compatible? Or
because Redshift was based on Postgres. They don't try to be really compatible, but it works. I mean, they started it. Let me check. I've run a version. If you select version when connected to Redshift, you see a Postgres 8.
Oh, whoa, whoa,
But
whoa, whoa.
but the
Okay,
API
but
of
it's
the
okay. It's
foreign
okay for
data
them.
wrapper is the API is really simple, so it stays compatible. It's not an API that goes like the table access method that really goes to the internal C API. It's a very generic API that encourages different databases, and then it just works,
Like it.
and
Yeah,
which
like
is
it.
what we will see. Yeah. So how does it work? First, you have to declare the foreign server with a create server. You put a name. I put the name of the destination database, sample data dev, and I just define in the option how to connect to it. So for a Postgres compatible database, you have a host, you have a port, and a database name. Of course, on Redshift, I've opened the port in the security group to access to it. But you need also a user and a password.
Mm-hmm.
I've
Yeah,
put a
that stuff
password
usually,
there.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. As an application developer, I just want to be the voice of the application developer. What Frank is doing right now, that configuration. Usually, you would do this once, and then you would reuse this configuration for your application, right?
yeah.
From the
And you
application,
change
just
the password. I
yeah, yeah,
think I
yeah.
didn't change it. I changed it just for the demo. If I have here, let me just set the password that I've put.
Mm-hmm.
So with the server and the user mapping, so here I mapped my local user. My local user is Yugabyte on my Yugabyte database, and I map it to a foreign user. So that's now I can directly query tables there, but to query them, I need the metadata from them. I need my local database, here Yugabyte, to know about the tables and the column that I can access. And I will put those foreign tables that are just metadata creation. I will create a schema for that
Mm-hmm.
that I call TPCH because it's the same as I'm connecting to. And you can import specific tables and define the columns, all that, but you can also just import the schema.
Mm-hmm.
And you can also list the tables that you want or exclude some tables. And this imports the metadata. So I will have foreign tables that are a kind of view on the foreign database. And I can list them with DET and the schema name. And those are tables that I can query here locally, but data will come from the foreign database.
It's sort of a specification. The schema that was imported by like by YugaByteDB, by distributed Postgres from Redshift, serves as a specification, right, for the following data
Yeah.
access. You will be
So
running, those standard PostgreSQL requests over the relations in the schema, but the requests are going to be served by an instance of Redshift in
yeah.
Amazon.
For example, if I describe this is local because I have the metadata there,
Mm-hmm.
but if I select star from customer, oh sorry, and with a limit because I think there are many rows. It's an analytic database, there are always many rows. Of course, there is a bit of latency. Also, I'm connecting to a serverless database, so maybe there is some cold cache. But basically, here I read data from the foreign table. And I can do an explain.
Mm-hmm.
On it. And I see that it is not a scan like we have in Yugabyte or Postgres. It is a foreign scan,
Foreign
and
scan.
you know exactly what is behind. And if I run an example of query, let me set timing on and run an example of
Oh
maybe,
my god.
yeah,
What's
with some joins.
mm-hmm.
I should do an explain plan for that better. So you see the results. So yeah, 3 seconds. I don't even know in which region is my database. Let me check. It's in Ireland. So yeah, there is a bit of latency. But if I do an explain plan, I always do explain plan to understand what happens. and sorry, only one copy paste. Here it is. And here, if I explain while it is executing, um, this is very important to check. When you query a foreign database and you have a lot of joins, like here, you don't want to query all data and then do the join locally. And I can check that. There is only one foreign scan, and the foreign scan will do the join on the other side. So this is efficient. The join happen on the
On a
remote
target,
side,
yeah, on a
and
target database, if it supports
yeah,
the joins, yeah, and Redshift certainly supports the joins.
and that's the goal. Huh? I use Redshift to benefit from all the optimization for analytic data warehouse. So I want the join to happen them, the aggregates to happen them, all that, and I just get the result. But I can also join the result to local table if I want,
Okay, excellent.
or for example create a table
And while you're
as
doing
and
this,
then
yeah, while you're doing this, let me tell this to the folks. Why would like why is this why foreign data wrappers are relevant for application developers and not just for data analysts, etc. Imagine that you're creating an application. Primarily, your application serves all the data from Postgres. You work with Postgres, like 90% of your code is for Postgres. But then there are some of the business operations that need to go to Mongo, Redshift, or S3. And you, as an application developer, have a choice. Either you need to use frameworks or libraries or drivers that were created for Mongo, Redshift, etc., just for that little fraction of requests, or you can basically ask Postgres, I will just continue using the Postgres JDBC driver, Hibernate, or like Node driver, whatever is your programming language. But Postgres, like those like little number of requests, also, I as application developer, I will let Postgres to serve them for me. That's at least one of my benefits for.
and it can make it transparent to the application. For example, I can decide to archive old data in another database and then build a view with a union all, and then I do not have to change the application code. And when I will query it, I will query live data from the Postgres database and archived data from Redshift or S3 maybe.
Yeah, actually, yeah, this is Redshift is a good choice, but also, folks, if you want to get data, like if you want to work with Mongo as a foreign database or S3, like
Or just to
MySQL,
migrate.
Oracle, yeah, it's
If you
totally.
migrate, you will query it only once, but then you just do a create a select as I did there.
Mm-hmm.
Here I did a create selecting from the remote site, creating a table locally, and then you have your migration that is done.
Cool, cool. Okay, so folks, I see that many of you are joining us right now. We are discussing the top 5 Postgres extensions for application developers. We have already taken a look at pgvector, the most obvious one. Then we explored how to use plv8 and discussed how you can use other extensions if you want to run your logic in your favorite language on the database. And now Frank demonstrated how developers can benefit from foreign data wrappers. You can have Postgres querying or manipulating data that is stored in other databases such as Redshift. And we have 2 more extensions to go. 2 more extensions to go. And those extensions, at least I think they are least obvious. And the fourth one is PGMQ, which is a lightweight message queue for Postgres. So you certainly can use, SQL, you can use tables and other relations to sort of create an abstraction for message queue, for some simple message queue. But also there is an extension. If you have, let's say, several microservices and applications and you want those to exchange messages using Postgres as a queue, then this is the PGMQ. It's not Kafka. It's not RabbitMQ. It's just lightweight. And the creators, let me share the screen with you, my friends, because as always, we want to show you how it works. The creators of PGMQ compare themselves to no, this is the wrong one. Yeah, to the Amazon Simple Queue service.
Uh-huh.
I've never used it, probably you know, but this is what this is how they position themselves. Something simple, message queue for microservices and distributed systems. So how it works? I also have this extension pre-installed on my Postgres instance on Temba. Yeah, it's somewhere here. It's available. And now let me, just to save the time, I want to, yeah, let's initialize this queue. Let's go back to my application logic. This is a JavaScript application. This is the pgmq object. You can certainly use the SQL interface. Actually, this is a good point. You can use the SQL interface if you go to the main project of pgmq. By default, they support SQL, so you use SQL just to send a message to the queue. Like this is how it looks from, you create the queue using this SQL command, then you send messages to the queue, then you can read messages from the queue, then you will pop messages from the queue, etc. But also this extension is getting some traction, and there are, as a result, there are some of the client libraries that were created for pgmq, and one of those, and I'm going to use a client library that was created for JavaScript. So it's here. Now, let's do this. I need to initialize this object, new pgmq, and we just need to pass the database endpoint. It's gonna connect to Tembo. Next, once connected, let me just copy some of the commands that I wanted to show you. Yeah, let's test this queue. So what happens here? We are going to test this queue. Let's execute this method test queue. We are passing their instance of the queue, and we need to execute this in this using the await, because this is asynchronous operation. So what we are going to do, we will create the following queue. The name of the queue is going to be Postgres queue. We are creating it. Hopefully it will be created, and after that we create one of the objects, a message that we want to store, that we want to put in the queue. How we do this? Just create some JavaScript object, JSON, and then you use PostgreSQL message send method, and this one will send the message to your queue. Hopefully it will work. And also let me do this in the end. Once I'm done with this queue, I'll destroy it, right? I no longer need it. So the implementation is very straightforward, and this is also the beauty of Postgres extensions. If this pull connect is not a function with that, looks like I messed up somewhere. Let's quickly check the source code. No, this is await. Did I did? Yes, I did the await. pgmq. Yeah, this one. Come on, this is confusing. This is should be fixed by the guys, by the creators of this library. It's just confusing. Okay, so we created the queue. Yeah, the destroy method doesn't exist. The signature of this method should be different. Yeah, it's called drop. But nevertheless, you see that we were able to put a message into our queue. Okay, now if I restart it one more time. Yeah, now I think I can drop this queue. Once the message is there, what you can do? You can use the read method of the queue, message received. Let's read this message back. Okay, so this is the message that is stored in Postgres, our first message. How about we put another message into the queue? Let's do this. Let's do the second message. Yeah, second message. We are putting this second message into the queue. And the thing about this read operation, when you read something from the queue, you are not removing this message from the queue. It's basically, you can read for as many times as you want, which means that if you repeat this operation several times, you're going to read all of the messages. Let's do this several times, and the messages will stay in the queue. You see, I'm reading the first. Where is the second message? Did I send the second message? Probably I'm reading. Yeah, I'm not specifying. When you are not specifying how many messages you want to read, it will read one by default, but here you can read two by default, like this. No, yeah, I think that I need to pass something else. But anyway, yeah, like there is a method that allows you to specify how many messages you want to read. If you want to read a message from the queue and remove it, then just do this. You use this pop method. So let's do this pop method several times. Something is wrong with my queue. Pop. Why? Anyway, we don't have time to troubleshoot. We don't have time to troubleshoot, but wait. Yeah.
That's what
I
is
think that I messed
always
up somewhere.
difficult with live demos, is that you don't have time to troubleshoot, don't even have time to think about the little things that.
Yeah, I think that what I did somewhere in this implementation, yeah, probably it's one of the missing awaits or whatever. If let me just copy paste one last time and execute this logic that I had. Yeah, message received undefined here. It means that when I was popping one of the messages, yeah, the queue was already empty. But nevertheless, folks, you got the point. If you need a lightweight queue for your application, and that lightweight queue means that it doesn't start any background process, nothing like that. It will be using just the built-in capability of Postgres for this messaging stuff. Then use PGM queue. Okay, so and we are getting to the last one extension, probably one of the least obvious.
One more that can be useful for developers, and it's kind of mandatory for developers. Developers need a database, but they don't need to see the production data. Actually, it's usually a bad idea to see production data in development databases for security reason. And then what is really useful is the possibility to anonymize the data so that you can apply specific anonymization to have a database that looks like the production in terms of consistency, in terms of performance, but without the real data, especially for the the columns like the first name, last name of people, of course, amount of salary or whatever. So to go fast, I will show you. So what I want to show you is an extension that is made by Dalibo. Dalibo is a French company doing a lot of things around Postgres. They have contributors, and they have a PostgreSQL anonymizer extension that is really interesting. For the moment, this extension is not easy to install on Yugabyte. So what I will do is start the extension in a Docker container where it is already installed, and use, guess what, the foreign data wrapper to read data from Yugabyte and anonymize it. So here I have a Yugabyte database where I've loaded the Sakila tables, and let me put that on top. And here I am connected to this Postgres instance that has the Postgres anonymizer extension. From there, with the extension, I have a lot of functions. Probably I can list them, dx, and the name of the extension. Maybe I wanted to do something. Okay. Or maybe the extension is name. Yeah, that's Yeah, the extension name is anon. That was the Docker container. So you have a lot of function, and you can see some interesting things that are already done for you. Of course, you have to assign those functions to specific column. But if you have a company name that you want to anonymize, then there is a function that gives fake company name. Same for address, anonymizing different things. So there are a lot of functions that are already done. And let's use that to query the Shokila database and see what we can do with that. So very quickly, because it's similar to what I've seen, except it's in the other way, a foreign data wrapper 2 GB, and you can do that because Gigabyte is Postgres compatible. I create the extension foreign data wrapper. I define where is my Gigabyte database, the user to connect to it, and I create a local schema, Sakila, and let's import. I limit to one table. Oh, sorry, I went a bit fast. Let me show what I did. I imported a single table just to show you, and then I select from it. So I read data not anonymized from my anonymizer container connected to my production Shakila database in Yugabyte, and I see the data that I don't want to disclose to developers. I initialize the anonymizer extension, and I can show how I can use the function. So instead of querying the first name, I just call a function that gives me a fake first name. Instead of last name, I do the same. The email, I read the real email, but I set a partial email on it. So it will have some part of the real email, but not the whole. And then I just put the other columns. I query that just to show what I have. So what I had before was real names and real email. Now I have completely fake names and anonymized emails. Of course, you can build your own function. You can do whatever you want. And the trick is to do something that is fake, but that is still okay for the application. For example, here I see that I add all names in uppercase. My fake function sets it with lowercase. If this is not compatible with my application, maybe I need to use a function that generates uppercase one. So there is always something to think about the data, but you apply that on some columns. And this extension can do a lot, like transparently applying those functions on the columns. But what I can do, for example, if I want to build a developer database with anonymized data, I can run the same query with a copy. And then I will write to a CSV file, for example, the data. And here I have a CSV file with data that is anonymized. So I've read the production database with real data. I've written a CSV file with anonymized data. This is done in a secure place, in a secured container. And then this file, I can ship it to the developers. They can load it in their developer database. There is no sensible data. So that's one usage of it. There are many other usage. On a Postgres database, you can also directly update the data, but this has a cost, of course, because it rewrites everything. I think that exporting through pgdump or through CSV file is a good way, because then developers can import it. And also, in many cases, you will export from production database version 1, and the developer want to import it in version 2 because they are developing version 2. So at some point, you need some pgdump or CSV file, and that can be an idea.
Also, another use case that I have in mind.
Yeah.
I created an application, and this is a multi-tenant application. Let's say, application where users have should have different visibility over my data. For instance, one of the user connects to your app, and that user must not see, the first name or any other private information.
Yeah.
And based on the user that you use to connect to Postgres, you are using, let's say, that anonymized data. You're supplying that anonymized data for that user. If, let's say, you are connecting with a user with more privileges, then that user can see everything. So this is another use case that you can tap into in your
Yeah,
application.
and this extension, you can see this is the documentation, and you can declare masking rules, and it uses security labels where you mention the colon and the function to apply to it. And you can do static masking, which means it will update your database to anonymize it. Dynamic masking, where data doesn't change in the database, but when you query it, depending on the user, then the functions to anonymize will be applied. It can do directly a dump with anonymization. So there are many things that can be done. Yeah. So with dynamic masking, you can do different masking to different users. For example, maybe some users are allowed to see the employee records except the salary, for example.
What I like is that you demonstrated this extension. Why? Let me take over the screen
Mm-hmm.
and share you this. I want folks also to avoid any confusion, because it turns out in the Postgres ecosystem, we have this PostgreSQL anonymizer that was just demonstrated by Frank, and it's very well documented. But also what I came across recently, I was using PG anonymize. It's like the same, like PG anonymize without R in the end.
Yeah.
And this one looks a little bit similar. There is some similarity, but it's not that well documented. So keep this in mind. When you're looking for the PG anonymize or anonymizer, you might also come to one of these two and pick the one that works best for you. So there are more than one, right, that does this. But I think that this one is more well known as and much more popular.
Yeah,
Where's
need to check, but yeah, the one I demonstrated is really the latest one from Dalibo. I think some functions are still in beta,
Mhm.
and it's doing a lot of things. There is also a tool, I don't have the name in my mind here. There is also a tool that is not really an extension, that is just a set of functions that can anonymize a dump. It can even anonymize a dump file with rules. What I like with this extension that I was using there is that you can really define rules using security labels. So using the Postgres feature and extend it to do something else.
this second extension, they also do this, and this is probably the only way to go. You can define those security labels, but the question is who is borrowing from whom. My guess is that these folks probably are borrowing the ideas from the following one, because this one looks.
No, I think they are the same
This one has more
authors.
stars. Yeah, they're different. I mean,
Because
like,
I see the owner. Look at the owner. The one that you had before
uh-huh.
was Julien from Dalibo also. Okay, if I'm not wrong,
Okay.
we need to check better, but I think one is kind of the version 2 of the other.
Actually, this is an interesting research project, because why I use this one, because it was available on Tambo. This one,
Yeah,
following one, the one you showed was not available there, but it doesn't mean that it's not the preferred
I
extension
think
for
it's
that.
in beta, and it's probably
Mhm.
the latest one, but the author is Julien Rouault, and yeah.
Anyway,
Need to check.
so
There are many different possibilities, and it's also something that is coming with GDPR, with many regulations where you just need to anonymize.
Yes, yes.
Not
So
only anonymizing, also subset. In GDPR, it requires that the developer database may have the minimum subset of the production.
okay, so that one is very well thought through. And I
Mm.
saw that yeah, they have that GDPR label, which means that they are thinking about this hard. Okay, so I think that what happened today, I don't see any questions. My guess is that some synchronization, was broken between our streaming tool and other platforms because usually at least we have a couple of questions. Not this time. So sorry, folks,
I,
if you
I
try
think
just to ask a question.
on LinkedIn, for example, I can see Johannes' comment in my notification, but I cannot see it under the live. So yeah, some synchronization is kind of
And
strange. But
yeah,
at
and
least
LinkedIn and
Johannes
LinkedIn.
confirmed that it works. So.
I mean, yes, unfortunately, what works, usually consistently without any issues is when someone asks questions on YouTube that works without any hiccups when you ask on LinkedIn and you're streaming from this platform like StreamYard, then no, it's sometimes. So sorry, folks, if you try to reach out to us, we will try to troubleshoot it next time.
Can we say
Uh,
that StreamYard is a kind of foreign data wrapper to LinkedIn and
yeah,
YouTube
yeah,
from the
yeah, yeah,
browser? And
exactly,
maybe we can do
exactly.
that from Postgres.
Exactly. So then let's conclude, folks. We are already over the time that always happens when we start, let's say, doing this live coding and live testing. But what you learned today, we showed you five, right? Five tab extensions for positives that we handpicked with Frank. We started from the most obvious to the list. First, it was pgvector, the foundational extension for GenA apps that you built on Postgres. Then we took a look at PLV8. This is an extension that lets you to run JavaScript logic on the database, or you can use another extension for Java, Python, Rust, whatever is your preferred language. Then, Frank, what you covered foreign data wrappers that let your applications to use Postgres as a data platform, meaning that the Postgres, you can send a request to Postgres, and Postgres can go and retrieve data from Redshift, S3, uh, I don't know, like Oracle, MySQL, and some of those, data sources also let you manipulate data. Like Postgres can update something, and the data will be updated there. And we concluded with the other two least known, probably least obvious extensions, is lightweight queue on Postgres, Postgres MQ, PGMQ, and also Frank showed us this uh, PG anonymizer that will make you not just GDPR compliant, that helps you to anonymize the data that you don't want to be visible in your development environment, pre-production environment, or just in your real production environment if you have some of the users who must not see some of the data. Okay, so what else? Anything else to add, Frank, before we go?
No, I was just checking about those extensions. I mentioned something that was wrong. Julien Rouault is not working anymore for Dalibo. Is working for Nile. So I think Dalibo did another version, kind of a fork of the other one to continue on it. So yeah, look at extension. That's also something with extensions. There are many extensions, and look at which one is active, who is maintaining it. You probably don't want to put in production an extension that has only one contributor. So yeah, be careful.
Yeah, good point. But keep building stuff on Postgres, and Postgres, as we always say, is more than a relational database. It became a sort of a data platform, and that's also thanks to the ecosystem of extensions. And we just, picked one of the top five based on our interests. But in the Postgres ecosystems, we have hundreds and hundreds of extensions. So take a look before you start building something, before you have some, technical challenges, you need something for your app, and you think like, oh, right, should I reinvent the wheel, or like, is this already implemented by the community for Postgres? Check it out.
And go to conferences. You have a good chance to meet the contributors to those extensions.
Exactly. Having said that, we'll see you, my friends, in a couple of weeks during our next live stream. And in the meantime, keep mastering Postgres, YugaByDB, and other databases if it's your choice. Bye bye now.
See you.